Morning, everyone. This is section 4, lesson 1 of the Bible reading. We're doing Exodus 21 through 24 and Psalm 19. So Exodus 21. Now these are the ordinance laws which you shall set before the Israelites. If you purchase a Hebrew servant because of his debt or poverty, he shall serve 6 years, and in the 7th year he shall leave as a free man, paying nothing. If he came to you alone, he shall leave alone. If he came married, then his wife shall leave with him. If his master gives him a wife, and she gives birth to sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall belong to her master, and he shall leave your service alone. But if the servant plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not leave as a free man, then his master shall bring him to God, that is, to the judges who act in God's name. Then he shall bring him to a door or doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, strong needle, and he shall serve him for life. If a man sells his daughter to be a female servant, she shall not go free after 6 years as the male servants do. If she does not please her master, who has chosen her for himself as a wife, he shall let her be redeemed by her family. He does not have the authority to sell her to a foreign people because he has been unfair to her. If her master chooses her as a wife for his son, he shall act according toward her as if she were legally his daughter. If her master marries another wife, he may not reduce her food, her clothing, or her privilege as a wife. If he does not do these things for her, then she shall leave free, without payment of money. Whoever strikes a man so that he dies must be put to death. However, if he did not lie in wait for him, but God allowed him to fall into his hand, then I will establish for you a place where he may escape for protection until the duly tried. But if a man acts intentionally against another and kills him by design through treachery, you are to take him from my altar, to which he may have fled for protection, so that he may be put to death. Whoever strikes his father or his mother must be put to death. Whoever kidnaps a man, whether he sells him or is found with him in his possession, he must be put to death. Whoever curses his father or his mother, or treats them contemptuously, must be put to death. If men quarrel and one strikes another with a stone or with his fist, and he does not die but is confined to bed, if he gets up and walks around leaning on his cane, then the one who struck him shall left physically unpunished. He must only pay for his loss of time at work and the costs of treatment and recuperation until he is thoroughly healed. If a man strikes his male or female servant with a staff, and the servant dies at his hand, he must be punished. If, however, the servant survives for a day or two, the offender shall not be punished, for the injured servant is his own property. If men fight with each other and injure a pregnant woman so that she gives birth prematurely and the baby lives, yet there is no further injury, then the one who hurt her must be punished with a fine paid to the woman's husband, as much as the judges decide. But if there's any further injury, then you shall require as a penalty life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. If a man hits the eye of his male servant or female servant and it is destroyed, he must let the servant go free because of the loss of the eye. And if he knocks out the tooth of his male servant or female servant, he must let the servant go free because of the loss of the tooth. If an ox scores a man or a woman to death, the ox must be stoned, and its meat shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be cleared of responsibility. But if the ox has tried to gore on a previous occasion, and its owner has been warned, but has not kept it confined, and it kills a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and its owner shall be put to death as well. If a ransom is demanded of him in return for his life, then he shall give whatever is demanded for the redemption of his life. If the ox has gored another's son or daughter, he shall be dealt with according to the same rule. If the ox scores a male or a female servant, the owner shall give to the servant's master 30 shekels of silver, the purchase price for a slave, and the ox shall be stoned. If a man leaves a pit open or digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or donkey falls into it, the owner of the pit shall make restitution. He shall give money to the animal's owner, but the dead animal shall be his. If one man's ox injures another's so that it dies, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the proceeds equally. They shall also divide the dead ox between them. Or if it's known that the ox was previously in the habit of goring, and its owner has not kept it confined, he must make restitution for ox, and the dead animal shall be his. Exodus 22. If a man steals an ox or sheep and kills or sells it, he shall make restitution of 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. If a thief is caught breaking in after dark and is struck by the owner so that he dies, there shall be no blood guilt for him. But if the sun has risen, there will be blood guilt for him. The thief, if he lives, must make full restitution. If he has nothing, then he shall be sold as a slave to make restitution for his theft. If the animal that he stole is found alive in his possession, whether it is ox or donkey or sheep, he shall pay double for it. If a man causes a field or vineyard to be grazed bare, or lets his livestock loose so that it grazes in another man's field, he shall make restitution from the best of his own field and the best of his own vineyard. If fire breaks out and spreads to thorn bushes so that the stacked grain or standing grain, or the field is consumed, he who started the fire shall make full restitution. If a man gives his neighbor money or goods to keep for him for while he's away, and it is stolen from the neighbor's house, then if the thief is caught, he shall pay double for it. If the thief is not caught, the owner of the house shall appear before the judges who act in God's name to determine whether or not he had stolen his neighbor's goods. For every offense involving property, whether it concerns ox, donkey, sheep, clothing, or any piece of lost property, which another identifies as his, the case of both parties shall come before the judges who act in God's name. Whomever the judges pronounce guilty shall pay double to his neighbor. If a man gives a neighbor a donkey or an ox or a sheep or any other animal to keep for him, and it dies and is injured or taken away while no one is looking, then an oath before the Lord shall be made by the two of them that he has not taken his neighbor's property, and the owner of it shall accept his word and not require him to make restitution. But if it is actually stolen from him when in his care, he shall make restitution to its owner. If it is torn to pieces by some predator or accident, let him bring the mangled carcass as evidence. He shall not make restitution for what was torn to pieces. If a man borrows an animal from his neighbor and it gets injured or dies while its owner is not with it, the borrower shall make full restitution. But if the owner is with it when it is damage done, the borrower shall not make restitution. If it was hired, the damage is included in the price of its fee. If a man seduces a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he must pay a dowry, marriage price, for her to be his wife. If her father absolutely refuses to give her to him, he must still pay money equivalent to the dowry of virgins. You shall not allow a woman who practices sorcery to live. Whoever lies with an animal must be put to death. He who sacrifices to any god other than the Lord alone shall be put under a ban designated for destruction, execution. You shall not wrong a stranger or oppress him, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. You shall not harm or oppress any widow or fatherless child. If you harm or oppress them in any way, and they cry at all to me for help, I will most certainly hear their cry, and my wrath shall be kindled and burn. I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall become widows, and your children fatherless. If you lend money to any one of my people with you who is poor, you shall not act as a creditor, professional moneylender to him. You shall not charge him interest. If you ever take your poor neighbor's robe and pledge, you must return it to him before sunset, for that is his only covering. It is his clothing for his body. In what shall he sleep? And when he cries to me for help, I will hear him, for I am compassionate and gracious. You shall not curse God, nor curse the ruler of your people, since he administers God's law. You shall not delay the offering from the harvest and your vintage. You shall give, consecrate, dedicate to me the firstborn of your sons. You shall do the same with your oxen and with your sheep. It shall be with its mother for 7 days. On the 8th day you shall give it as an offering to me. You shall be holy men to me. Therefore you shall not eat meat from any animal that has been torn to pieces by predators in the field. You shall throw it to the dogs. Exodus 23. You shall not give a false report. You shall not join hands with the wicked to be malicious witnesses, promoting wrong and violence. You shall not follow a crowd to do something evil, nor shall you testify at a trial or in a dispute, so as to side with a crowd in order to pervert justice. Nor shall you favor or be partial to a poor man in his dispute simply because he is poor. If you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey wandering off, you must bring it back to him. If you see the donkey of one who hates you lying helpless under its load, you shall not leave the man to deal with it alone. You must help him release the animal from its burden. shall not pervert, bend the justice due to your poor in his dispute. Keep far away from a false charge or action, and do not condemn to death the innocent or the righteous, for I will not justify and acquit the guilty. You shall not accept a bribe, for a bribe blinds the clear-sighted and subverts the testimony and the cause of the righteous. You shall not oppress a stranger for your soul, your feelings, thoughts, and concerns of a stranger, for you were strangers in Egypt. You shall sow your land 6 years and harvest its yield. But the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie uncultivated, so that the poor among your people may eat, while the land grows naturally, whatever they leave the animals of the field may eat. You shall do the same with your vineyard and olive grove. 6 days each week you shall do your work, but on the 7th day you shall stop working, so that your ox and your donkey may settle down and rest, and the son of your female servant, as well as your stranger, may be refreshed. Now concerning everything which I have said to you, be on your guard. Do not mention the name of other gods, either in blessing or in curse. Do not let such speech be heard coming from your mouth. 3 times a year you shall celebrate a feast dedicated to me. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread for 7 days. You shall eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, at the appointed time in the month of Abib, for in it you came out of Egypt. No one shall appear before me empty-handed, but you shall bring sacrificial offerings. Also you shall observe the feast of harvest, weeks, Pentecosts, or first fruits, acknowledging the first fruits of your labor, of what you sow in the field. And 3rd, the feast of ingathering, booths or tabernacles at the end of the year, when you gather in the fruit of your labors from the field. 3 times a year all your males shall appear before the Lord your God. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, and the fat of my feast is not to be left overnight until morning. You shall bring the choice first fruits of your ground into the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. Behold, I am going to send an angel before you to keep and guard you on the way, and to bring you to the place I have prepared. Be on your guard before him, listen to and obey his voice. Do not be rebellious toward him or provoke him, for he will not pardon your transgression, since my name authority is in him. But if you will indeed listen to and truly obey his voice, and do everything that I say, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. When my angel goes before you and brings you to the land of the Amorite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Canaanite, the Hivite, the Jebusite, I will reject them and completely destroy them. You shall not bow down to worship their gods, nor serve them, nor do anything in accordance with their practices. You shall completely overthrow them and break down their sacred pillars and images of pagan worship. You shall serve only the Lord your God, and he shall bless your bread and water. I will also remove sickness from among you. No one shall suffer miscarriage or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. I will send my terror ahead of you, and I will throw into confusion all the people among whom you come, and I will make all your enemies turn their backs to you in flight. I will send hornets ahead of you, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite before you. I will not drive them out before you in a single year, so that the land does not become desolate due to the lack of attention, and the wild animals of the field do not become too numerous for you. I will drive them out before you little by little, until you have increased and are strong enough to take possession of the land. I will establish your borders from the Red Sea to the Sea of the Philistines, the Mediterranean, and from the wilderness to the river Euphrates, for I will hand over the residents of the land to you, and you shall drive them out before you. You shall not make a covenant with them or with their gods. They shall not live in your land, because they will make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it is certainly a trap for you, resulting in judgment. Exodus 24. Then God said to Moses, "Come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, Aaron's older sons, and 70 of Israel's elders, and you shall worship at a safe distance. Moses alone shall approach the Lord, but the others shall not come near, nor shall the people come up with him." Then Moses came and told the people everything that the Lord had said and all the ordinances, and all the people answered with one voice, "Everything the Lord has said, we will do." Moses wrote down all the words of the Lord. Then he got up early in the morning and built an altar for worship at the foot of the mountain with the 12 pillars, memorial stones representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he set young Israelite men, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificial young bulls as peace offerings to the Lord. Moses took half of the blood and put it in a large basin, and the other half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it aloud to the people, and they said, "Everything that the Lord has said we will do." and we will be obedient. So Moses took the blood, which had been placed in a large basin, and sprinkled it on the people, and said, Behold the blood of the covenant which the Lord has made with you, in accordance with all these words. Then Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders went up to the mountainside, and they saw the manifestation of God, the God of Israel. And under his feet there appeared to be a pavement of sapphire, just as clear as the sky itself. Yet he did not stretch out his hand against the nobles of the Israelites, and they saw the manifestation of the presence of God, and ate and drank. Now the Lord said to Moses, Come up to me on the mountain and stay there, and I will give you the stone tablets with the law and the commandments which I have written for their instructions. So Moses arose with Joshua his attendant, and went up to the mountain of God. And he said to the elders, Wait here for us until we come back to you. Remember that Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a legal matter, let him go up to them. Then Moses went up the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The glory and brilliance of the Lord rested on Mount Sinai, and a cloud covered it for 6 days. And on the 7th day God called to Moses from the midst of the cloud. In the sight of the Israelites, the appearance of the glory and brilliance of the Lord was like consuming fire on the top of the mountain. Moses entered the midst of the cloud and went up to the mountain, and he was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. Psalm 19. The works and the word of God. The heavens are telling of the glory of God, and the expanse of heaven is declaring the works of his hands. Day after day pours forth speech, and night after night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there spoken words from the stars. Their voice is not heard, yet their voice in quiet evidence has gone out throughout all the earth. Their word to the ends of the world. In them and in the heavens he has made a tent for the sun, which is a bridegroom coming out of its chamber. It rejoices as a strong man to run his course. The sun's rising is from one end of the heavens to the other, and its circuit to the other end of them, and there is nothing hidden from its heat. The law of the Lord is perfect, flawless, restoring and refreshing the soul. The statutes of the Lord are reliable and trustworthy, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, bringing joy to the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true, they are righteous altogether. They are more desirable than gold, yes, than much fine gold. Sweeter also than honey are the drippings of the honeycomb. Moreover, by them your servant is warned, reminded, illuminated, and instructed. In keeping them there is great reward. Who can understand his errors or omissions? Acquit me of hidden, unconscious, unintended faults. Also keep back your servant from presumptuous, deliberate, willful sins. Let them not rule and have control over me, then I will be blameless, complete, and I shall be acquitted of great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable and pleasing in your sight, O Lord, my firm, immovable rock and my Redeemer.